Welcome to GLHF Today. We're going over 5 games that didn't age well at all. Just before we begin, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. It helps the channel grow. Let's start off with number 5, Shenmue. Shenmue is a classic revolutionary game for its time that innovated a lot in the open world genre, paving the path for all the greats like GTA and Skyrim, who've expanded upon many of the concepts that were first seen and popularized by Shenmue. Shenmue didn't age well a lot thanks to the hardware limitation. Keep in mind that Shenmue 1 was split to 3 discs and Shenmue 2 was split to 4 discs, but that sadly didn't help the very repetitive dialogue, the subpar voiceover work, and the mediocre fight system. For a lot of the players in the Shenmue fanbase, the awkward dialogue and many of the flaws in today's standards are part of the Shenmue charm, which is why you can still see them in Shenmue 3, which is the latest installment of the game that was released in late 2019. Even with the first 2 games remastered to an HD version, the series is really hard to get into for new players because it didn't age well. It did, however, lead to one of the funniest videos on YouTube.
Do you know anything about the Chinese language?
I do not.
I see. Excuse me.
Yes, sir?
I'm looking for a man named Lan Di.
Landy. I think I saw him playing Lucky Hit with some kids down the street.
If you want to check out the full video, we'll leave a link for you in the description. Number 4, Grand Theft Auto 3. GTA 3 came out shortly after Shenmue 2, and it was an even bigger and better introduction to the open world genre for many gamers. GTA 3 is actually out on mobile, and it can be very enjoyable even to this day, but there are glaring flaws with the game that are super annoying and even game-breaking at times. First of all, the obvious. The most annoying mechanic in the old GTA games, or more like a missing mechanic from the game, swimming. Ending up in the water in your car or as the player would kill you every time after a few seconds, unless you remember the cheats by heart and constantly refill your health before it drops to 0. This problem plagued all the games from GTA 3 up to San Andreas, where you finally could swim. One of the worst aspects of GTA 3 was the gunplay, which is quite awful and again stays pretty much the same until you reach GTA San Andreas. Unlike some of the games on this list, while GTA 3 didn't age well, it's still very much playable and it's a fun sandbox to play around with. Number 3, Crazy Taxi. Crazy Taxi was actually a pretty fun game when it came out. It's also available on mobile just like GTA 3. This game had a pretty fun soundtrack with a lot of the top hits from the 90s. A great soundtrack is pretty much guaranteed when you play an old-school Sega game. The reason Crazy Taxi didn't age well is because it's an arcade game without much to do other than driving people around. This was a full-price title, which meant a lot back in the day, where you couldn't just get every game out there, and compared to other titles at the time, it gave you very little amounts of playtime considering the fact that you had no unlockables or anything besides the core gameplay and the sandbox. If you compare it to the other arcade games at the time like Sega Rally, it still falls short, considering the fact that even an arcade game like Sega Rally 2 had a 10-year championship section with unique unlockables and more technical customization to your vehicle. They could have maybe let you use the money you earned to buy upgrades to your vehicles or just get some skins to make it better, but like I said, this title lacks depth, and considering it was a full-price title in the late 90s, it was a pretty bad bang for your buck considering the fact you had games with way more content like Shenmue for the same price. Number 2, Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 1 didn't age well mostly because of the limited hardware it had to run on, which is very much apparent if you take a second look at the game. It's no coincidence that you have 2 ninjas like Sub-Zero and Scorpion, which are a recolor of the same skin. Because the hardware was very limited back then, there wasn't enough memory for one more character, but there was enough memory for the same skin to be recolored twice. That's how you got Sub-Zero and Scorpion and Reptile. The hardware limit also affected the gameplay with only a few unique moves to each character and a unique finisher. It's amazing when you look back now at how much of the Mortal Kombat universe is made up of unintended errors and forced game design choices which are now part of the lore. There's no way to remaster Mortal Kombat 1 to make it easier on the eyes, or maybe give the characters a better look without creating the game completely from scratch and actually giving characters more unique moves and finishers. Number 1, GoldenEye 007. This Nintendo 64 game is the best example for a game that didn't age well at all. GoldenEye was a huge hit back when it came out. It explored many concepts like destructible environments and stealth mechanics. The multiplayer aspect of the game on top of that was a big bonus that made GoldenEye an instant classic. While the terrible graphics are excusable parts of that era, the 10 to 20 frames per second you'll experience in this game is torture. The controls are really bad considering the fact you don't have dual sticks, which are the minimum for an FPS game. GoldenEye was a great game when it came out, but would be a torture to play today compared to the rest of the games on this list, which is why it earned the #1 spot. What is the game that didn't age well for you guys? Make sure to leave it in the comments, even if it's not in this video. On your way down there, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our future videos. Good luck and have fun.